Corville Nurseries is proud to bring you the story of how Tommy made Arbor Day cool. A story about asking questions, doing the work, and discovering that change doesn't always start with adults. Dedicated to Gabriella, may you spend your life knowing how much you are loved, and remember that even small hands can make very big changes. By Anonymous, Tom of the Trees. Tommy lived in a brick apartment building on a street with no trees, no shade in the summer, no leaves in the fall, just hot sidewalks and long empty spaces. One afternoon, Tommy stood outside with his mom. "Mom," he asked softly, "why don't we have any trees here?" His mom smiled, but her answer was honest. "When they built this neighborhood," she said, "they made room for buildings and sidewalks, but not for trees." Tommy looked around again. It didn't feel right. Then she added, "Maybe if someone asked, things could change." That night, Tommy couldn't stop thinking about it. That night, Tommy dreamed big. His street was full of trees, kids riding bikes, families laughing, birds singing like they were auditioning for a Saturday morning cartoon. Everything felt alive. Then the dream went full soap opera. Dark clouds rolled in. Money floated through the sky like confetti at a parade no one asked for. A voice whispered, "Each tree costs $500. Tommy woke up. Great. Even his dreams had budget problems. The next morning on the bus, Tommy stared out the window at streets lined with beautiful trees that were basically showing off. Peter slid into the seat beside him. "You really like those trees, huh?" Tommy nodded. "My uncle told me something," Peter said. "Back in 1872, people started Arbor Day. They planted trees so places could grow better." Tommy nodded. Peter added, "You remember my uncle from Ohio, right?" Tommy thought for a second. "Yeah. He brought his niece Marcia with him that summer," Peter said. "And if I remember correctly, you had quite the crush on her." Tommy felt his face get warm. He stared very hard out the window. Peter smiled. "Anyway," he said, "trees matter." Tommy turned to him. "Yeah, but those trees cost money." "How much?" $500. Peter blinked. "For one tree?" They sat quietly for a second. "Well, we don't have $500, Tommy said. Peter shrugged. "Not yet." Tommy looked back out the window, then back at Peter. "We could earn it," Peter smiled. "Now you're talking." And that's exactly what they did. For the next month, they worked. They set up a lemonade stand. They washed cars. They did chores for neighbors. They picked up trash. They even washed windows. They worked hard, really hard. And little by little, they saved enough. Tommy counted. $514.75. They looked at each other. They did it. Tommy dumped the money onto the table and started counting. Once, twice, then again, just to be sure. $514, he said, his voice getting louder, and 75 cents. They froze. Then they exploded. High fives, laughing. Peter did a victory lap around the room. "We did it," Tommy said. "We actually did it." That afternoon, Tommy and Peter sat on the floor in Peter's room. The money was spread out between them. "We can buy a tree," Tommy said. "And plant it right in front of your building," Peter added. Peter's dad appeared in the doorway. He smiled. "Boys, I've been watching you. You worked really hard for this." They sat up a little taller. Then he gently said, "But you can't just plant a tree in the sidewalk, right?" They paused. The city plants those trees, he explained, and the sidewalk would have to be opened up. Planning, permits, maybe even a jackhammer. The boys looked down. Just a minute ago, it felt like everything. Now, it didn't. He stepped closer. "Hey, don't lose that feeling," he said. "What you did matters." They looked up, and then he smiled. "If you want something to change, sometimes you just have to ask." They didn't wait. Right there in Peter's room, they grabbed paper and a pencil. They wrote about their street, the heat, the empty sidewalks, and everything they had done to earn that money. At the bottom, Tommy wrote, "Can we plant trees where we live?" They folded the letter, ran downstairs, out the door, and dropped it into the mailbox. They stood there for a second. Tommy smiled. "Now what?" Peter shrugged. "Now we wait." At the city hall, the mayor read the letter. He smiled. "This," he said, "is how change begins." Then he stood and addressed the room. This idea didn't come from a committee. It came from a kid who worked for it. He held up the letter. "If we want stronger neighborhoods, we plant trees." Then he added, "But we're not planting just any trees. We're planting native trees. And we're not planting invasive species. Some trees help everything grow. Others take over. They block sunlight and they stop life from growing underneath them." Then he continued, "I'm going over to Corville Nursery. I hear they have over 100 acres of trees, and I'm going to ask them if we buy trees from the city. Will they help us plant them?" Later that day, the mayor arrived at Corville Nursery. Rows of trees stretched as far as he could see. A man named Rich greeted him. "Welcome," he said. The mayor explained everything. Rich smiled. "We can do that." He walked the mayor through the nursery. Oaks, strong and long-living. Sugar maples, beautiful in the fall. Little leaf lindens, great for streets. And eastern white pines for height and variety. These trees don't just grow, they last. Soon, trucks arrived. Workers began digging. Tree by tree, the street began to change. The first tree planted in front of Tommy's building was a white oak. "They can live over 500 years, Peter said." Tommy looked up. That tree would be there long after him. As the trees began to be planted across town, the mayor realized Arbor Day is coming. That's the perfect time. So he went to Tommy's school. A banner hung across the gym. "Happy Arbor Day." "We are planting trees," the mayor said. "But not just any trees. We are planting native trees, and we are not planting invasive species." Tommy tilted his head. The mayor continued, "Some trees help everything grow. Others take over. They block sunlight and stop life from growing underneath them." Then he smiled. "And this all started with a letter from one of your classmates, Tommy." The room erupted. Kids cheered, and every one of you can make a difference too. After school, Tommy found Peter. "What did he mean?" Tommy asked. "Invasive trees." Peter nodded. "Come on, I'll show you." They walked into an old forest. It was quiet, too quiet. The ground was dark, nothing growing. "Norway maples," Peter said. "They block the sunlight. They spread fast. My uncle said they showed up about 30 years ago." Tommy looked around, and now it's a whole forest. And that's when he understood. Planting trees mattered. But planting the right trees mattered even more. After that day, everything changed. Kids got to work. Tommy and Peter went to college. Their friends all learned a lesson and continued. Helping neighbors, cleaning streets, planting trees. And it added up. Street by street, tree by tree, the town began to change. Growing up, years passed. Tommy and Peter didn't see each other as often, but they never stopped being a part of each other's lives. They talked on the phone, they sent Christmas cards, they checked in, the way people do when the friendship matters, even when time moves fast. Peter had been working on a project for years now, one that meant a great deal to him. That winter, he called Tommy and said, "You should come see this one in person." Fittingly, that year, Arbor Day fell on a Saturday. So Tommy took a plane ride, and when he arrived, Peter was there waiting. When they met, it felt like no time had passed at all. Tommy walked alongside Peter, listening, looking, taking it all in. He was genuinely impressed by the care, the patience, and how much thought had gone into every detail. Peter listened too, as Tommy talked about the work he had been doing, the ideas he had been sharing, the conversations he'd helped start, the things he still believed were worth protecting. Tommy mentioned someone. Peter remembered, and the whales in the Salish Sea. Peter nodded slowly, respectfully, supportively. They stood there together for a moment, comfortable in the quiet, grateful not for what they had just each built, but for how their work, in different ways, was still trying to leave things better than when they found them. They stood together again, a once empty street, now full of trees. "This started because of you," Peter said. Tommy shook his head. "It started because we did something." Tommy is older now. It's Arbor Day. A new tree is being planted at his daughter's home. His son-in-law digs the hole. His daughter holds her baby. "Dad, it's so cool that you plant trees with us every year." Tommy smiles. "Did I ever tell you the story about—" And they laugh. "Yes, Dad, every Arbor Day. We think Arbor Day is cool." They laugh together and plant the tree. Special thanks to Corville Nurseries for helping communities grow stronger, one tree at a time. Thank you.